Hey everyone, welcome to our virtual Easter for kids. The Bible tells us about Jesus and his life. In our last video, we saw Jesus shared a special meal with his friends. In our Bible story today, this is a true story about Jesus' death on a cross, his burial in a tomb, and what happens next. Our story today is in Matthew chapter 26. Let's watch this story.
Jesus and his disciples went to a garden called Gethsemane. Jesus prayed, "Father, if it is possible, take this suffering away from me, but only if it is part of your plan." While Jesus prayed, the disciples fell asleep. Jesus said, "Get up, it is almost time." Suddenly, Judas arrived with a large crowd. Judas betrayed Jesus by kissing him so the crowd would know who Jesus was. The crowd grabbed Jesus and arrested him.
Jesus was led to the high priest. The religious leaders were trying to find a reason to kill Jesus, but they could not. The high priest asked, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" Jesus replied, "Yes, that's right." The high priest said, "He has spoken against God. He deserves to die." The religious leaders refused to believe that Jesus was God's son. In the morning, the religious leaders led Jesus to Pilate, the governor. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked. "Yes, that's right," Jesus replied. "What should I do with Jesus?" Pilate asked the crowd. "Crucify him," they answered.
Pilate did not think Jesus had done anything wrong, but he handed Jesus over and said, "Do whatever you want." The governor's soldiers put a scarlet robe on Jesus. They made a crown of thorns and put it on his head. Then they mocked him. "Here is the King of the Jews." They beat Jesus and led him away to be killed. The soldiers nailed Jesus to a cross. They put a sign above his head that said, "This is Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." 2 criminals were crucified next to him.
Darkness covered the land. Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus shouted again, and then he died. Suddenly, the curtain in the temple sanctuary split in two from top to bottom, and there was an earthquake. One of the men guarding Jesus' body said, "This man really was God's son."
Jesus was buried in a tomb. A stone was sealed in the front of the tomb so that no one could steal Jesus' body. On the 3rd day, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the tomb. Suddenly, there was an earthquake. An angel of the Lord rolled back the stone and sat on it. The guards were so afraid that they fainted. The angel spoke to the women, "Don't be afraid. I know you are looking for Jesus. He is not here. He has risen, just like he said he would." The women left the tomb quickly. They ran to tell the disciples the good news. Just then, Jesus greeted them. The women worshiped him. "Don't be afraid," Jesus told them. "Tell my followers to go to Galilee. They will see me there."
The death and resurrection of Jesus is the center of the gospel. We deserve to die because of our sin, but Jesus died in our place. Because Jesus is alive, we do not need to fear anything. Those who trust in Jesus have forgiveness and eternal life, and we can joyfully obey him.
Hey there, I'm Pastor Brian, and it's time for Questions from Kids. Ethan from West Valley City, Utah asks,
I know that Jesus died on the cross to take the punishment we deserve for our sin. But why did he rise from the dead? Why does it matter that Jesus is alive?
Ethan, that is a critical question. Thank you so much for asking that. And in your question, you hit something really important, that we know how vital the cross is, that Jesus died for us. And a lot of times when we're talking about what Jesus did for us, we kind of focus on that. And it's true, it's vital. We need to understand it. But that's not all that Jesus did for us. That's not the full picture of the story that we need to understand. And so we understand that Jesus died, and that was how he paid the punishment that we deserved. That because of sin, everybody deserves to die. The question is our death going to be the one that God takes, or will he take somebody else's death, that of Christ? And so Jesus dying gives us that opportunity to have somebody else pay that punishment on our behalf. But there's more to it than that. Jesus didn't stay dead, and here's why that matters. Because Jesus, with him raising from the dead, that shows us that God the Father accepted his payment. That God looked at that death that Jesus paid and said, yeah, I'm satisfied by that. And it also shows us that Jesus defeated sin and death for us. That he didn't stay dead, so therefore we, when we trust in him, we do not stay dead as well. That we will have eternal life. We don't have to be afraid of death because we know we've been given life through Jesus. And we also know that Jesus has defeated sin, and so we don't have to continue sinning. We have the ability to say no to sin that we didn't have before. And so that's why Jesus raising from the dead is so important, not only for our hope in the gospel, but also for how we live every day. So since Jesus really did rise from the dead, how should that change how we live?